So I'll start off with the web development cycle, and I just took out some slides that I used for a workshop on drawing wireframes and mockups. So I'll start with that, and then we'll go through Chase's website, and we'll just do like a live audit and go through the thinking process that I have, and then after that we'll do some Q&A, and also like as part of the Q&A will probably be like, what's the action plan? Should Chase do it by himself using no code, low code tools, or should he outsource it? Cool.
Right. Cool.
All right. So I shall share my screen. We'll start with these wireframes and mockups. We'll go through what they are, and then vectors, and then a popular software that we use for drawing these things called wireframe and mockups, and then we won't do demos and exercises today, but I could show you the softwares. Okay, so I hate that font. Wireframe and mockup, what is it? Okay, so let's just say I want to build a concert hall, or like your client says, build me the most beautiful concert hall for me, and let's say you just have gone ahead and made your concert hall, and this is one in Russia, this is one in Taipei, and this is one in LA, Disney concert hall. It's kind of like saying, get me a fruit, and you don't know which one you're gonna get. So that's why we follow a process in architecture where you draw very quickly, because you can ideate very quickly through sketches, pen and paper, and then later on you could perhaps do like AutoCAD design. And then from there, you take it to a 3D model where there is no colors and it's just monochromatic, and you get a sense of space much better than the wireframe. So you get a much better sense of space and maybe circulation of the space. And once you're okay with the form, then you move on and add material, color, and texture. And you just add more fidelity, more detail to you just add more detail to the model, and once you've reached to the end of that stage, then you finally build the actual building. It's very similar in our software development world. You start with pen and paper, wireframe. So wireframe is basically like this. It's like a blueprint of what you expect. You're just creating spaces, allocating spaces, creating zones or boxes where things will go. So just from this sketch alone, you can probably tell which ones are buttons, which ones are subheadings, which one is the header, which one is the slider, right? And then this is a wireframe of, I guess, an earlier version of YouTube. And then you could add to a little bit more, saying what happens when you click on a button, right? And then this arrow indicates that this will go to this page or that page. And then the dotted lines in the middle here show that you can scroll to the right for the work section. Fidelity, or another word for detail, you're going from left to right, from less detail to more detail, and then it's basically going from sketch to wireframe and mock-up and prototype. So prototype, some people define it as your MVP, so it's coded as it's built with code, but some people just like to define it as a clickable image. The difference between mockup and prototype might be that you can click on the buttons and it'll just go to another screen, and it'll feel like it's a real app, but in fact all of the button interaction has been preset.
What is MVP?
MVP is minimum viable product. So that core user journey for the product. So if it's Twitter, then it will be sending a tweet. Of course, you can read a tweet and share the tweet, like the tweet and all that, but you disregard all that. And the main thing is you want the customer to share a 300-400 character tweet. Yeah. So that's an MVP. Like, what's the core user feature? And you just build that. Some people might say, like, for example, Amazon, when they started, Zappos. When Zappos started, they pretended that they were an online e-commerce store for shoes, when in fact the person just went to take photos of the local shoe store in his neighborhood, and he uploaded the photos. And whenever the orders came in, he personally went to buy those shoes and went to the post office and sent them out. That's an example of where it's an MVP where there is no code, but it's a working product or service, because from the customer's perspective, it delivered the result that he or she expected from the website. Are we still together?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So what's Wireframe? Wireframe's all about the content, the structure and layout, and it should be just black and white. You're just focusing on content. Whereas the mockup, you're adding the extra details, colors, stylings, the icons, the graphics. So then why do we do this? It's because we want to save time, money, and energy. And it's also to prevent stuff like this from happening.
Wow.
So
Hello?
it
Are we
No,
broken
move it
up?
left. No. Bit more left.
yeah,
No, bit more. Oh, no, go back right. Go back right.
exactly.
Oh, can you? No, let's start again.
Yeah, you can easily follow like a 10-20 minute YouTube video, or you would find someone on Fiverr or Upwork, and you can definitely find these kinds of wireframe and mockup designers to like put your thoughts onto paper like that before you hire a developer, because developers are usually not very good communicators, and they're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, and then they'll bring you a Russian concert hall rather than your Taipei Chiang Kai-shek Memorial, let's say, you know.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have any questions?
Not yet. It's all very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the web development cycle is basically from wireframe to mockup, and then mockup to prototype or your first version of your software with code maybe. Or interactive mockup could also be a prototype, which is again clickable images basically.
Oh, by the way, sorry, I do
Yeah.
have one question.
Mhm.
All of these terms, all this terminology,
Yeah.
and the process that you're talking about going through,
Mhm.
is that pretty much industry standards across professional developer, website developers, etc.?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say they should walk you through this, and if you do engage with a freelance developer on Fiverr or Upwork, they should provide you this kind of process and rundown. If they don't, then it means they might not have that much experience building websites for people, or maybe building websites for complete beginners, clients like yourselves who are not so familiar with the development cycle. Maybe the developer might come up with the first version of the website, and you're like, oh, I want to make it more airy, and like it's like, or I want to make it more warm,
Yeah.
So that's why we have to use. I mean, a smart developer designer would follow the wireframe and mockup stage.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Actually, I do have a question. So
Yeah.
Fiverr and Upwork,
Mhm.
that is, you were describing that as mock-up stage, or is that more wireframe?
I would say, if you like, you can most definitely just draw on a piece of paper. So wireframe, I think you should do on your own.
Uh-huh.
And if you like a little bit of challenge, try to use Figma. It's also very easy to do.
Okay.
You could do it by yourself, but if you can't be bothered with it, you can ask the freelancer to provide a mock-up based on your wireframe. But what would be nice is you would send a wireframe, but also send websites that you like and the look and feel of websites that you like that you want the developer to imitate. Right?
Uh-huh.
Because you can't really pinpoint sometimes, like, oh wait, I don't really know what I like about the website, but I just do, and then you share it. And hopefully the developer or the designer is smart enough that, okay, I think the client likes this type of font and the amount of spacing around the images and text, stuff like that.
Okay.
Cool. And then usually you would launch it, and then in terms of payment, I would usually recommend 2 types. One is you pay by each stage. So like maybe like, all right, mock-up stage, how much? and then the first version how much, and then the second website maybe in twos. Or you just pay 50% upfront and 50% upon the launch of the website.
Okay.
And
So you were
then-
saying like mock-up, draft, final,
yeah,
or 50-50. Okay.
yeah, yeah, whichever you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think that's it in terms of like web development cycle and working with a web developer. Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
And I guess like mock-up designers are just cheaper than a developer hourly rate. So then maybe you could split that and just hire a mock-up designer first. Once they draw the perfect website out for you, then you send that over to the developer. But then from the mock-up designer, you would ask, okay, which color scheme did you use, like the hex code, and then also which font styles did you use, so that you can just copy paste it over for the developer. Right? Then the developer usually, they're not very good at human side of stuff, and they're like, okay, all I need to do is just build. I don't need to do the difficult discussion and walking you through ideation part.
That's where you get brought into it.
Right. Like I'm like I come from a design background, so like I'm, I could be a geek, but I prefer to be the designer.
So maybe it's a little bit, is it kind of like sound engineering where ideally, like the person who did the mix in the recording session and the person who's familiar with the miking and all of that stuff would ideally be the one who also does the sound engineering and the mastering of your recording, because they're familiar with the initial process too. Like, as an analogy, the web or the mock-up person would be familiar with the color scheme and stuff, but ultimately it might be better if that was the same person who did the whole process, or does it not really matter?
If the developer is that skilled enough, if he or she has that front end capability, yeah, why not? Definitely. But then also sometimes it's not that easy to find a 2-in-1 developer.
Okay.
Because there are like different track-minded people.
Oh, and also like and maybe you're getting into this, but what are the approximate expected price ranges for these steps?
So steps.
Or,
I guess
if it's
like-
one person doing the whole thing, what might you expect to pay? Or if it's a separate mock-up versus that build?
So this would usually depend on features of the website, right? Like, are you building a very dynamic website where there's a lot of interaction going on between you and then the people visiting the website? Or is it more informational and they just go in, get to know you, and it's just like reading about you, and then maybe one call to action form, like a form where they can submit a request or quote or whatever. Like that's much simpler than like creating like an Airbnb site where you need map functionality, all these API calls. So it really it depends on the feature. Yeah.
So what about that more simple, just personal?
Right. So the simple personal stuff, I think on Fiverr and Upwork you can definitely find people based in like mostly South Asia or sometimes East Europe. They charge pretty low. Like I think you can find as cheap as like $30 or even $20. And then the price can just keep going up from there, and you get what you paid for. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
But sometimes you might be surprised, and there are also YouTube videos of people who show you this. Like they say, I paid 10 developers from $5 to $500 of a website. So those are actually quite fun to watch, and you guys can check it out as well. We should always start with that one question, which is, what's the purpose of your website? What's that one thing you want your page visitors to do when they get to your website?
Right. So for me, it was more just like a digital business card.
Okay.
Almost. So that they could get basically get the type of image that I want them to have of me from a website, and it's mostly just like informational. And I have dual purposes. I want them to be able to get information about my science and my musical stuff.
Okay.
And then, yeah, like to me, I wanted it also to be a hub of my social media information, so that instead of giving them my Twitter handle and Facebook handle and YouTube handle and all these things, I could just say it's all on my website. You can just go to the website and link to any of those things.
Okay. Cool. So generally, to have a clear website, I would say you would need a clear call to action. Right? And the header should just have one button. Or it could be two buttons, but it's the same function. So it's like one button right here, and this right underneath your slogan. And then top right corner, another button. And maybe the nav bar, the navigation bar on the top will, okay, yeah, it's following me while I scroll down. And if I have that call to action button always in my view, it's clear that you want me to do that action. So for example, let's just say subscribe to podcasts. Like you want to increase your subscriber count on your podcast. Then you would have, subscribe to podcast, top right, with maybe an eye-catching colored button. I say like bright blue right here. Then it's very contrasted. And also another one right here in the center, for example. Or, connect with Nelson. Or, or like if it's a business, right? Like ask for a free quote. Like, or book your free call now. Something that feels like, okay, clear. I know what you want me to do.
Right.
So and then again, these are all my thoughts. You should just remove all of these, all the other buttons. These are all just taking people away from the goal of your website, which is, contact Nelson or contact or subscribe.
Okay.
Second point I would like to make is this slider stuff. Anything that slides and automatically slides, especially, are perceived as spam. It's been like kind of proven through surveys that when people see like moving images, it reminds them of like an annoying ad on the side or something. So it's generally just pick a very good photo of yourself or the product or service you're offering, and it should be just there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
In terms of text, people English world read left to right, so you either place this in the center or you put it left align, and then your image on the right or a video on the right. And videos actually increase conversion rates a lot better than photos because they can just click and then they can get lots of information, and most of all they get to feel your authenticity through your talking and your voice.
Oh, so like not just video footage, but like a message or audio with it.
Yeah, I would say give like a 1 or 2 minute, 1 or 2 minute intro of yourself, like, hey, thank you guys for coming, or like, and then maybe like 5-6 seconds of like quick work that you did on different stages, and then like I do this, but I also do, because you're trying to market yourself as both like a performer, musician, and a scientist. So then, in one video you could probably fit all that information in. So you save them time to get to know you. They don't have to like click through all of your, or just spend more time reading. Like seeing a paragraph of text is when people might want to click away from your website.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So for this section, maybe you want to add some more line spacing, more space, so that it feels airy and like people can have an easier time reading your text.
Right.
And again, like try to avoid anything flashy, moving.
Yeah.
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 Right. So it does look. Again, this is moving, so you don't want the like
Right.
anything moving by its own. You don't want it.
Right.
Yeah. So far, I guess it's like you said. It is like a digital business card with no particular one goal for the visitor. Right.
Right.
It's kind of like go to a 夜市 and then just like see what you like kind of thing, right?
Right.
Um,
So
vers-
maybe like there needs to be like a very clear science track versus, or just like a very clear delineation between.
yeah,
the
maybe
science
you
and the
can
music
build
part.
2 websites. No? Yeah, why not?
Well,
I've often thought about that when considering Paul Whiteley, the performing artist, director, producer,
right.
but then there's Turnaround Productions, the company.
Hmm.
Right.
And still considering that, going through that process of there's, as you say, your sort of your digital card, or as I might just put it old school, my CV online, so to speak, as those as an arts practitioner, where my goal is like book me, that's the goal.
Exactly.
Compared to Turnaround Productions, where it's a particular producing company in the area of arts and entertainment, arts events and entertainment. Actually, it's sort of 2 distinct entities.
Yeah.
So the choice of actually building 2 websites compared to putting, my CV in the About Me section, I'm not sure about that one.
Right.
Yeah, because then that way you can also test, get a better analysis of people coming to your site or better feel.
Yeah, what purpose are they there for? Yeah.
Right, like the copywriting is just clear, right? So you got to really see yourself as like a product on an e-commerce store, and then like on Amazon, and then let's say you search for headphones, but then you get completely unrelated science. Like I'm just saying, like science. Usually people don't associate science with music, I guess. So then, for example, yeah. So I think it would be a good idea to separate the 2 persona out.
Yeah. Okay.
And then have separate text copywriting, and then the images itself would also
Sorry,
be different.
copywriting. What does that mean?
Oh, sorry. So copywriting is just text and images that.
So you mean like different fonts or
The content itself.
Like
the
content itself, yeah. Your
Okay.
messaging.
Yeah.
Your messaging through text and image should make you want people to buy the product, for example.
So one thing that what you said makes me think of is, how websites have like a language option, like you can flip between English and Zhongwen or something.
Mm-hmm.
What if, is it a good or bad idea to do that with those 2 sides of my site? Like, could it have a music version and a science version? Like you enter music mode or you enter science mode and the content is all different.
Chase singer and chase scientist.
Yeah, or like music or science or something, and you can toggle between the.
Yeah, I guess then you would just have 2 buttons, right? So for example, like this page,
Yeah,
I can't
first
even
page.
scroll, right? And it's just I can't scroll, I can't do anything but see 2 buttons on here.
Uh-huh.
And then musician, scientist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So it's just the front. It's the front door to go
Right.
into before
Yeah.
Right.
You're
Oh,
just
that makes
forcing people. All right, pick. Are you here for the
Yeah.
music version of me or the scientist version of me?
Right.
Yeah.
Does that seem like a bad idea? Or
No, I think that's okay too. Yeah.
I like it as a solution to the Turnaround Productions and Paul Whiteley ?
Mhm.
Yeah, the 2 entities.
right?
And if you want, you could add a video there as well.
Yeah.
so that you're forcing them to stay on this one section of a page, and they just can't move anywhere else on the page, and it's either they can click on one of the buttons or a video, but then the video is, I guess you could explain that you have that musician side and the scientist side, and then after watching the video they might have a better idea which one to click or they want to click after watching the video.
Okay. So the point with that was don't put that at the top. Right.
Right.
Or,
The top should be clear of any other links. There should only be one link, one button. You know.
One beer.
Yeah. The whole landing page actually should just be like very clear. What's that one call to action? And then at the very bottom, yeah, that's where you can put your social media. People generally know that, you know, if they want to find your social media, it's in the footer somewhere.
right.
That's it for how I would look at a site, and you know how I hope you would design your site in mind now, like that when you
Yeah.
draw your wireframes.
So helpful.
Clear call to action. Next and the final part is the discussion on tools. I'm a big fan of strikingly.com because
Sorry, of what?
this
Of
website,
Strikingly.
strikingly.com, because they in the free plan provide email forms, so you're able to collect visitors' email when they submit the form for free, whereas other tools usually charge you for that feature.
Okay.
So on the free plan, of course, with all of these page builder sites, you get that like their branded stuff button at the bottom of the page. But generally, like Strikingly is a great way to start, I feel, and then their design is somewhat limited, but they provide like out of the box a couple layouts. So like you just insert the text, and then you see here there's this button called layout, and then background button. So every time you click on the layout or background, it'll toggle between preset templates. So like maybe the text will shift towards the center, and if you click on background, the background image changes, or the style of it changes. It might give a black overlay and then put a white text on top, for example. So I think
That's kind of like a WordPress theme, or
no. This is they actually built this to compete with WordPress, because WordPress has a learning curve of like, you know, buying your server, buying your domain,
Yeah, a lot you have to get on board.
your plugins and all that. So I call WordPress really one of the earlier low-code tools that ever existed.
yeah,
The term low-code only became popular because you know, all these tools like Wix and Strikingly or Squarespace started, and those would be considered no-code. And then WordPress, Bubble.io, Webflow, these tools are considered low-code, which means you gotta spend I would say at least 10 hours, maybe 20 hours to learn how to use the tool. These websites I'm showing you right now, I built using WordPress.
Okay.
And I just keep it simple, and people can't do anything but look at these images, right? All these events I organized in Taiwan. And then they can click on this button, sign up for the event, and then they'll see that, oh, okay, it's the April 21st quarterly mixer coming up. I can register here if I want to. I can go back and, oh, I want to, you know, subscribe for the mailing list. Then they fill out the form and hit send. It's just very clear, and you can basically build this with Strikingly, right? These days, like single pages have been the trend, rather than multiple pages where like you got to click the next link or on the nav bar for about and another for something else. So everything is on one page. So then when people are also viewing on mobile, it's just a simple scroll
right.
rather than tap, load, and wait. my other one, Code Mecca. So this is where I'm trying to build online courses. And again, this is all done with my WordPress. I'm using Elementor as my page builder plugin. And I do pay for the subscription for Elementor Pro license. And on top of that, if I show you my backend. So one of the biggest pain points for me was uploading images that were scaled so that it doesn't take up more server resources than needed. When you upload your image, it will automatically scale it down for you. And then depending on when you upload, like when you insert the image onto your page and you select whether you want a small size, medium, large, or original size, it already created all that different versions for you.
Love your work.
Thanks for making this happen, Paul.
Yeah, definitely, man. This was a bonus to me
touch.
anyway. Thank you, Harrison, for suggesting it. I didn't think it was going to be anything like this, so that's bloody awesome, my friend.
Do you guys feel like there's
next
a
level.
need for a session like this?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Totally.
It's just makes everybody so much more aware of what they're jumping into before they decide to jump. So, yeah,
And
very cool.
especially like the way you summarize, for example, the way you summarized SEO. It's like, what did you say? Teaching Google how to see your website, or
Basically, yeah.
little things like that are just invaluable because nobody has time to read a bunch. Like you said, when you saw a bunch of text on my website, like it's very overwhelming. So I loved your simple explanations.
Wow, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you both very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a
Ciao.
nice Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.